Now, I'll just tell you what I've been observing because, I'm putting up another newsletter sometime, I think probably next week, just as a little brief thing, a few reminders on it or so, about things that I'm doing or hoping to do or seeking to do. But I was kind of, because we go into a new year in a calendar sense, there is this sense of anticipation. It could be argued that the new year starts earlier than the 1st of January. I've always thought that. I always have an impression in November of a new year, end of November, of a new year force beginning to emerge. So, perhaps it's the spiritual contractions or something, I don't know. But because we have this psychology that says, this is the year from the 1st of January, it has an importance because we make it important in our consciousness. It's a new year, freshness, a sense of new possibilities. And I know as we look around the world, it can be sometimes a little bit challenging, to see that somewhat. But I thought just looking at these vibrations around the planet on a general scale, this applies to every inch of territory or every part of the consciousness of Gaia or Sophis or whatever you want to call it. There is this field of the planet itself. The actual material planet has its own energetic field, as well as the goddess within it, its consciousness. And I looked, and I didn't really, did I get a surprise? No, I didn't. By the way, when we were doing the meditation, I don't know if anybody saw it, but there was a point towards the end where the light, which affects all of us that were doing the meditation and other people too, it was the most incredible blue, sort of like a blue lilac-y color. It's the only way I can describe it, a sort of silvery blue lilac. And it just flashed like an explosion almost of color. It was quite astounding. I don't know if anybody else saw that. That was right near the end. I think it was when I was talking about Thanksgiving, about that point, somewhere like that. And that was quite remarkable. Because it's a light that's generated, if we're like batteries in a I don't know, some kind of cosmic process, then that energy was generated. The most beautiful light, I'm not going to interpret what it means that particularly because I'm not sure. That's why, but it was this beautiful. It was like a blue, but it went into like a lilac. I can't describe it like that, but it had like a silvery. You get this with higher frequencies. They have a kind of metallic almost quality, and so it's so difficult to describe them. Once you get into the really deep mental planes, it's like this. I can only describe it as metallic. That's the way it looks. The closest thing on Earth that I see are fireworks. Actually, if you get beautiful fireworks, I think that's why we tend to like them, as long as the bangs aren't too loud, because they remind us of something. They remind us of something in ourselves, which is just like a firework. So you can be a Roman candle or a Catherine wheel, or you can be a rocket. It's entirely up to you what you are, but you're like a firework. So when I talk about what I'm going to talk about now, just for 5 or 10 minutes, that's all. These colors, I want to make it clear that when we talk about rays and colors, we're talking about potentials. We're talking about potentials, and it's important to remember it like that. Otherwise, what happens is, if we're not careful, we get hemmed in by something as if it's completely beyond our control. And that is never, never the case. Life is never beyond your control. And there's a simple reason for that. It's because you've made it what it is in the first place. So it can never be beyond your control. But sometimes it's good to detach from the outer activity and to kind of try to look at the higher frequencies around that material world and what's going on in that activity that we are creating moment by moment. So I never be limited by anything that a clairvoyant or a visionary or an astrologer says to you. Never ever be limited by it. If something is said to you and you say, I don't like that, you have a right to do that, and to kind of say, why don't I like it? That's a good question, but also, can I let go of it? Because it's something. If thine eye offends thee, pluck it out, it says in the Old Testament. That doesn't mean take your eye out. It means if you see something that doesn't resonate and vibrate with you, then remove it. Let it go, dissolve it at least. Don't fight it, but dissolve it. So if I say anything that doesn't resonate with you, don't dissolve me, because otherwise I shall just become like something out of Star Trek and be beamed to some other part of the galaxy or something. Yeah, that'd be nice, actually, wouldn't it? I'd become a puff of vapor. So don't turn me into vapor, folks. Not just yet, because I haven't had a cup of tea yet. So I'd hate to travel across the universe without a cup of tea. I do hope they do things like that. Like you have a Buffy trolley on trains where they come along with the tea and coffee. I wonder if they're going to do it in spaceships. If you're going nipping up to Venus for the afternoon, you get a nice cup of tea and a scone. I hope so. I really hope they do that. Anyway, the colours. The top one didn't surprise me. Why didn't it surprise me? Well, because it's a kind of, if I look at it, it's a kind of purple, really, you could say. And of course, I was saying last year and the year before a lot that the purple violet ray, and it's sometimes difficult to separate those two. You can separate them because violet tends to look a bit more bluish most often in the aura, but they're sometimes difficult to separate. And I was on about the purple violet light, and I still am on about it. Why? Because it's a growing vibration in all human beings at the moment. You, me, everyone. And what is very clear, that as we go into this first part, at least of 2023, what I'm looking at is in this first part of 2023, there is this beautiful light, which is, it's somewhere purplish, but it nudges into violet. And what is it saying to us? How can we cooperate with that vibration, these frequencies on the planet? Well, what it's saying is, one of the great things about the purple violet is this strong link with the imagination, but the combination of those two things that we often talk about, the thought, the imagining aspect, and the psychic feeling that accompanies it. And I often go on about this, and most of you know about this. You can't think about anything without feeling it. It's impossible. That's the way we're conditioned. You might not have a strong feeling about many things, but that's not the point. Everything that we think about, we color it in. Life is like the coloring books that we give to young children, and they fill in the bits with colors. Well, that's effectively what we do in a way. In reality, life is like a coloring book, but until we fill it in with feeling, with emotional, psychic quality, it's a bit remote. And that's why when people teach visualization, trying to make all the money turn up and stuff like that, they say you've got. Well, I do. So you've got to feel it, but you've got to feel it in the right way, and then it becomes colored in and becomes alive. And this color is very strong at the moment. Whether it's for the whole year, I'm not sure. I'll maybe check it out about Easter. But the importance of this is that for us, we have to really explore what we feel about ourselves and about our world. Not just what do we think about it, but what do we feel about it? What is life stirring up in us in terms of feeling? Because this vibration is very much to do with that relationship between the thinking and the feeling part of life, and it's pivotal. And this energy, or this light, or whatever epithet you want to stick on it, this beautiful colored vibration is here for us now. Now, why is that important? Why is it so? Well, it means really that things are changing more and more rapidly, as you know, You know, every day you wake up and, you know, there's a new app or something, or there's something new going on, and you've got to deal with it in a different way to how you dealt with it the day before. They're changing the rules every 2 minutes. Well, that's what's happening materially. It means that something is happening in us, therefore. And what is happening in us is how we use our thinking and our feeling together. We're being given the opportunity to be real magicians in the true sense. You know, real magicians working with the wisdom and the understanding, which is what it means. And that color is very much to do with that. And you can see it all over the place at the moment around the planet, this purple violet light, and it's still very, very important. So be conscious of your feeling, be conscious of your understanding, of your thinking, and how you bring those two together in the sandwich of your mind. That's wonderful. It's a sandwich of your mind. It makes it sound like a running buffet, doesn't it? Anyway, there we are. Now, the second color, there's the two of them working very close together. And there's a color which I didn't really capture very well with my pencils. I really struggled because it's a very, very, very deep blue. And to get a bit Harry Potterish again, if I may, that blue is also connected with what we might consider magic. But what it's to do with is the routine of it, the kind of structure of it, and it's very much to do with choice. One of the amazing things we have is the capacity to choose. You know, you chose to be here this morning. I chose to be here. We have a capacity because of the polarity that we live in. We have this capacity to choose, select. You know, and we're doing it all the time, millions of times a second. We're selecting our experience through our consciousness, and we're not where we're doing it most of the time. What this deeper blue does, I think they did wear it at Hogwarts in Harry Potter, didn't they? But anyway, what this deeper blue does, it kind of lines us up to that process of choice, of light and dark, of black and white, of whatever, and confronts us with the idea of choice. It confronts us with it. You know, do we choose this, or do we choose that? Do we go that way or that way? And this blue, this color, will kind of help precipitate whatever we think about, so it becomes real for us. And so the more we think about it, the more we feel it. Even things that we don't like. This is important. If you think and feel a lot about things you don't like, then you're creating that just as much as the things that you do like. So what this deeper blue is about the Earth's ritual, you know, the mind on the Earth. Are we really heading for disaster? Are we really creating, you know, a climate disaster? Are we really creating a banking disaster? Are we really going to have more pandemics? Or do we use the process in us magically to structure a different process in our experience in the future? It's very much to do with, we're going to be confronted with choosing where we are. Are we there or are we there? And of course the answer is always very simple. The answer is I am everywhere. You know, I don't have, ultimately, when we are perfectly spiritually in tune with ourselves, we no longer have to make choices. We get beyond choice because we're in a flow of infinite possibility, you know, the Garden of Eden consciousness. So but at the moment we're not, well, I'm not there, and I don't think most of us are, but it doesn't matter. We're seeking that way. And that deeper blue is there to sort of work the magical aspect. It's like the ritual almost. You know, we need the ideas and the feeling around it, and we need the structure, the ritual in ourselves, which is controlling our minds. This is what meditation's all about. It's about mind control in the real sense. You know, we control our minds, not somebody else controls it for us, which is the big choice we have to make. Do we allow other people to think for us, or do we think for ourselves from our core? That is such a big question, and it's the real question, and this is what this deep blue will pose on the Earth. So we are in a critical point right now. But it's only critical if people don't realize that they are the consciousness that matters most when it comes to unfolding their experience in the outer world. It's about empowerment, really, and awareness. So those two vibrations, you can perhaps, think about them yourself in the coming days and see what your own impression is. Something else that also is going on is I did indicate this yellow light, and these are the three main vibrations around the planet at the moment. And the yellow is there, and I kind of breathed a sigh of relief when I was given these three parts of the Earth's energy sandwich at the moment. Because the planet itself, if we look at the planet as an out there thing, the planet itself is going through awakening to itself. Difficult to us to understand, really. The planet is awakening more to itself, just as we can become more self-aware, because through self-awareness we become aware of everything. The planet is becoming more self-aware in a strange way, and so we've got to join it on this journey of creating something beautiful or creating something that isn't beautiful. And we have the tools to do that in a collective way and an individual way. The individual and the collective kind of amalgamate in this. So you have that kind of purpley violet, and then this deep blue, and you're being given your magic equipment. What the yellow light, and it is a beautiful primrose color, that is to help us be clear. That the yellow light likes to clear everything. So we've got to be clear. We've got to be clear, and the yellow light will help us with clarity. To kind of, the yellow light can be a bit like a spiritual vacuum cleaner, sort of hoovering up all the dust. I was talking about dust, fun enough, at the beginning, and somebody said we've got more dust than usual floating around because of air currents. Now that's an interesting metaphor for this process, because the yellow light is about getting the thinking clear, but getting our focus clear, getting rid of the dust in the mind and in our consciousness, and those are the dominant vibrations on the planet. Certainly at this moment, they're very similar to how they were a year or so ago, from what I can remember. But they're still there, still resonating, and we have to deal with them. The underlying story is always the same, however, and that is that that we have to think for ourselves, and to ensure that we don't sort of ignore what's going on around us in 3 dimensions, but we don't become consumed by it, and that we can step out of it. This is where meditation is crucial, actually, at the moment, because it helps us to step out and become the observer of what is going on. And as soon as we become the observer, we realize that the outer world doesn't have any power over us, really. We just believe that it does. So looking at what's going on here, those two vibrations particularly, the purple, I'll call it purple for now, the purple and the deep blue, you're being given your magic tools, your equipment, the capacity to feel and to see and to know the process within you, to let your subconscious in its highest effectiveness work through you, creating beautiful things. It becomes effortless. When we're really in tune with vibrations like that, it becomes effortless, And people say, oh, I've had one of those days today, everything just fitted together. Well, it's because they probably let go and allowed these vibrations to work in them. But to focus on them is not a bad idea. To be conscious of those two frequencies particularly is very, very useful. And to encourage that detachment. Detachment isn't coldness. It's not heartless. Detachment is being really aware. It's being really aware not just dragged into a narrow focus, but being really aware. And these vibrations will help you with that. There's one thing I'll mention here that this really, really, is more to do with people that have done some of the serious magic courses with me. But I'll mention it. But I sometimes in exercises, and particularly in some of the serious magic things, I've got people to focus on different locations on the planet, often sacred spots or places of important vibrational quality on the planet, and to kind of link with them in a loving, open, creative way. The reason for that is not because we need to soak up the power of these sites in ourselves, because they exist in us. It was because they've been a bit polluted, if you like, by people with not the best agenda, on the planet right now. And there are many people like that, always have been throughout history, who have an agenda which is not particularly good, for everybody. And they try to pollute the energy of these wonderful places. And so the linking with them is to link with the light of them, with the beauty of them, whether it's a mountain or whether it's Stonehenge or whether it's a cathedral in Munich or whatever it is. It's to link with the beauty of the energy of those places and to help them resonate and vibrate in us as pure, with as much purity as possible. It is a crucial time, but it's not a time to be afraid of or to be afraid in, whichever way you look at it. It's not a time to be afraid in it. We have to be very careful with not getting stuck in the dark aspect of the game of life. It's really important to do that. We know that there are some awful things that have gone on the planet. They have for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And it's just at the moment, the light and dark, left and right polarity is becoming more sharply evident, I think. And so you are the chooser. So you flow with life, you breathe with life, you allow yourself to be with life, and in your consciousness, you can choose how that process works. What a gift. And so these vibrations are a gift. And if just enough people on the planet understand the very fundamentals of this, then we can transform the nature of our experience collectively and individually. And yes, we are going through an interesting time, but we can make it how we want. And this is what's being offered to us. And I remember my own guidance saying that years ago, when people used to say, oh, are we going to have, like the end of the last epoch, are we going to have floods or something like this? And they said, well, it's up to you. It's up to you. It's up to you and your consciousness. But if enough people, if we work on the quantum theory, if enough people begin to really be this creative center for beautiful things in themselves and understand that, then we only need a percentage. It might be 1%, might be 5%, maybe as high as 10%. I'm not really sure. But if enough people meditate and work on beautiful inner processes, we will get there anyway. We have to. We're all going back to heaven. It's just a question of how we get there, folks. All right. And in my newsletter, I mentioned the golden reality idea a little bit in that as well. But that should be out next week. So I hope you found that useful. And I'll just show you again what I scribbled on my pad to try and there you go. It's pretty close to there. It's a kind of, it's more purpley than violet, that light. You can see it around everything. If I look out the back here, I can actually see that, and I can see, and then there's this other vibration, and it's like a sea of movement. When you look at them in the ether of the planet, it's like a very gentle moving sea, a little bit, very gently moving water. And there's another thing going on, which I have mentioned before, that trickling through this It's like it's like gentle rain. That's why I kind of mentioned that a bit in the meditation. It's like gentle rain, and the name I've been given for it is the light waters. It sounds a bit new agey, doesn't it? But the light waters, and what it is, it's light like water coming from a higher frequency, just trying to flow through all the dust, you know, in our planetary sort of muddle right now. And it's, I call it the light waters, and you can see that it's that seeping through, beautiful, and it goes through everything. It goes through solid furniture, it goes through your house, through your body. And when people moan to me about 5G and say, oh, you know, we got 5G and it's all going to fry our kidneys and stuff like this, honestly, if we connect with these frequencies, then there's nothing out there, not even a nuclear bomb could actually damage your consciousness and what you are. So always remember that the you know, what we need, if you like, is being made available more than ever. And these light waters, you can see them flowing through people's fields. Something in us is seeking to reawaken, and that's why you know, I was saying the other day, and I still say it, light your candle. You know, do it every day, just for 2 or 3 minutes. I do a nice lighting candle. It's very cheap though, but light your candle and just for a minute or two, and remind yourself of this glorious golden light that burns in the center of every human soul, and that we, through our better perception and understanding, instead of being somehow victimized by life, we can transform it. So remember that.